Okay, so I thought that I would come and respond to John Stamos' accusations of him finding me with Tony Danza, cheating on him. I actually would have done it sooner, but I unfortunately have been sick and I've lost my voice, but I'm feeling a little better now and enough of my voice is back that I can respond. Anyway, I met John Stamos while I was doing We Got It Made. Prior to meeting John Stamos, I had dated Tony Danza for about a year and a half. We broke up. Then I had a hairdresser, like John said in his book. I had not read the book. I only had my daughter get the pages where I was mentioned. Anyway, I had a hairdresser, and her name was Mary to me. And anyway, she was telling me that she worked on General Hospital, and I said, oh, that lackey guy, he's cute, so I do him. Anyway, he ended up calling me on the set, and we went out and just hit it off, just like, we just hit it off. And we went together for about a year. John told me he loved me at about 8 months into the relationship. I'm a girl. I remember that very clearly because I was waiting and waiting for him to tell me that he loved me because I didn't know if he did, and we were inseparable. And anyway, so it was about 8 months that John finally told me that he loved me, and I was very excited about that. Anyway, and we had spent time at his mother and father's house with his sisters, and we'd spend the night there a couple times, that in separate rooms because we're at mom and dad's house. And I loved Loretta and Bill. I was able to meet and spend time with his father, Bill. That was a wonderful, wonderful, kind man. And anyway, so I had a very good relationship with John's parents and his sister Alina in particular. And it was probably maybe 2 months later, or 3 or 4 maybe, but a short while later, I was at home and the phone rang, and it was Loretta, John's mother, and she called and she said, Teri, I know that you love John, but don't plan on marrying him because he has no intention of marrying you. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I we had the phones on the walls, and I was twirling the long cords. I was twirling it, and just knowing that Loretta loved me or cared about me. There was never any friction or animosity or nothing. We just got along so good that, I thought that John told her that. And she was a mother, like looking at me like a daughter type and thinking, I better warn this girl, like not to get her hopes up or get too, and thinking that, just trying to protect me. And John and I had never discussed marriage, so, I just thought she was trying to protect me. So, of course, I thought, he doesn't love me. Why would he tell his mother that if he loved me? If a man says that about a girl, he doesn't love you. That, he has no intention of marrying you. That means you're over here. You're not even a consideration in the, good field. So I went to John's house. John at that time lived on Coldwater Canyon in a right on the street, the first apartment or townhouse on the street. It's still there today. He lived in like an townhouse apartment right there with Roger Dodger. And I call him Roger Dodger. I think his name is just Roger. They were friends from young kids. Anyway, he lived there with Roger. And there was a bunch of people there when I went to the door. I knocked at the door. John came to the door, and I told him, "Come outside, John, I want to talk to you." And so he came out. He stood on the curb, and I stood on the street, and I just said to him, "John, I don't think we should see each other anymore." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "I just don't think we should. And I don't want to see you anymore." And, it was my fault. I was young. I didn't know how to communicate with him, to tell him, you said, your mother told me you didn't ever want to marry me. You had no intention of ever marrying me. I couldn't say that. We never discussed marriage, and I wasn't, secure enough, strong enough to say that to him. So I just left it like that. I left him like that, which I lived with that regret, and that, that it wasn't right, that I didn't give him, excuse me, I didn't give him any understanding. But I was hurt, and I was mad. I was rejected, and left. Anyway, about 3 or 4 days later, I was over the hill near the mall. There was a Long's Drug Store that was on the corner, and I went in there, and Tony Danza was on the cover of the TV Guide. So I opened it and read it, and in there he said that Teri Copley was the only girl that he'd ever loved. And so I thought, what? Did he love me like that? Was I the only girl he ever loved? Did Tony really love me like that? And so I must have called Tony, and Tony came to my house. It was daytime. It was about 10 or 11 in the morning. I was fully dressed, and there was a knock at the door. And it was the kitchen door, the side kitchen door. I did not have a guest house. It was just a pool in the backyard and a driveway, and the front door was over here, and then the kitchen door was on the side. And so there was a knock at the door, and I answered the door fully dressed, and it was John. And he just looked at me, just shook his head, and just looked at me like, "How could you?" Well, I looked at him and didn't say anything either. I just looked at him like, "What do you care?" That was my subtext. What do you care? You don't love me. You have no intention of ever marrying me. Like, what do you care? And we're broken up. What do you care? Now, maybe John came back to get understanding, or, maybe he was doing that. And I wish the circumstances hadn't been the way that they were, but he certainly didn't come in my house and find me in bed with my naked with the sheet over. I mean, none of that happened. He didn't come in my house. He came to the door and knocked. So I don't really, none of that is true. But he just left. And I know he saw Tony's car in the driveway, or at least I knew it was Tony's car. I assumed he thought it was Tony's car. And he left. And we went our separate ways. He went on to date a girl for 3 years, and I went on to, live my life and make another mistake. And then we ran into each other again and got back together for a short time. John was not making commitments to me or expressing, love for me. So when I would see him, I was still with the subtext or the sound in my head that John doesn't love you. He has no intention of ever marrying you. And so I would leave. And I would tell him, I'm not going to see you anymore. And I would leave. And then after he dated Paula Abdul, we got back together again. I got back together for a while then. And, but then the same. There was no commitment. There was no, so I told him, I don't want to see you again. I didn't until one point he said to me, you always leave. And I just looked at him and I went, because you don't love me like that. Anyway, so then, finally after Rebecca, he divorced Rebecca. I knew a girl, my close friend was friends with a girl that knew him, and I asked John to give me a call. So he called Teri Copley, John Stamos. And we talked, and then he said, what are you doing? Do you want to come over? I said, okay. Well, I wanted to, because I had grown up a little bit now. And now I wanted to tell him what happened. And so I went to his house, and he sat down, and I said, John, did you know that your mother called me and told me that you would never marry me? And he looked at me and he said, I didn't know that, Teri. He said, I would have married you. I was madly in love with you. And I just sat there like, just brokenhearted, how it happened, what, that we broken up. I just left him without giving him understanding, and we just never communicated this misunderstanding and, what happened between us. And anyway, and so by this time, I'd become a Christian, and, my life had gone a totally different way. I now, my morals had changed, my values had changed. I knew, I had security in my life. I had found love that, I had never found before. That caused me to feel so much rejection and to be a runner and to, not communicate the way that most people do. Anyway, I'd found that, so there was nothing that was going to, not that, just, I'd gone a different way. And we went our separate ways again. But we had, I felt at that time, we had a mutual friendship and love as friends and respect for one another, I thought, at that point. And I had gone to Project Cuddle with my friend, and there's a butterfly outside. I raise butterflies, monarchs, butterflies. She's flying around. Anyway, I had gone to Project Cuddle, and John was there, and I went to say hi to him when it was over, and he said, go. We had his friend bring me and my friend upstairs to his, his hotel room, and there was always lots of people up there. John always loves people, and that's what I loved about John the most. And his mom was there, and I got to see Loretta, and I got to say to her respectfully, Loretta, you know that John and I had something very special. And she looked at me and said, I know you did, dear. I know you did. And it was just, a respectful way of sharing with Loretta, you know, that hurt us. And we were young. And, you know, in her defense, we were young. And John was just, you know, getting ready to start his career. He was just off General Hospital. He just did that one sitcom with Jack Klugman. And, you know, he was just starting his career. You know, as a mother, I totally understand her now. She's like, you're not going that way, son. You know, you got to walk this road. That'll come later, not now. But anyway, so I never held that against her. As the years went on, I realized that instead of protecting me, she was getting rid of me. But, you know, I understood, completely understood. And if it were me in her shoes, I probably would have done the same thing. Anyway, and I got to go to her funeral. All that being said, I felt sideswiped by John in, you know, getting an email from People magazine and talking to the lady at People magazine and hearing what was being spoken, and then seeing him carelessly throw me out there like a dirty dish rag for, you know, people to just make fun of and, you know, make all these assumptions about me that were very far from the truth. It just was very hurtful and surprising to me. That's not the John that I ever knew. So, I wanted to come on and share my side, difficult as it is to do. And I wanted to come on and share from my heart, just transparent, what happened from as I lived it. And just to say to John that I forgive you. I forgive you, John. I prayed for you to get married and have a beautiful family, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy for you. And I will continue to pray for you and your family, your beautiful wife, your beautiful son. I will pray for you guys as long as I'm here. And I just want to bless you. I know you know the truth, and that's all. I just wanted to come on and be able to share that, and share, you know, forgiveness for John, and the joyfulness of what lies ahead for both of our lives in the midst of so much turmoil in the world. Anyway, okay, that's all. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Thank you for sharing. So, two sides of the story go out there. And it's not just one side of mockery towards me. 40 years ago, who would have ever thought? Who would have ever thought? Anyway, all right, God bless you. And see you soon. Bye-bye.